Hello there, my fellow Pythonistas. Today we are going to look at a very interesting Python concept, generators and iterators. Generators are special functions in Python. They look and feel like normal functions, but they do a lot more. Let's look at the example that we have here. Let's say we have a file that is example.txt. Let me show you that. It has a ton of data. Around 2 lakh records are there in this example.txt. And the goal of this exercise is to read specific lines. For example, if I give this function 17 to 34, it has to read only those specific lines. One way to do that is to take this file object, read everything in that, like all the 2 lakh records, and then what we can do is to slice it from 17 through 34. This will give you the right answer, but you don't have to read all the 2 lakh records into your memory to read just those 4-5 lines, correct? That is where generators comes into picture. Generators are great at reading through sequences, but not loading them all together in the memory. How does it do it? Using this magic keyword called yield. Yield is exactly like return, but little more magical. What yield returns, we will figure out in a little bit. But for now, what we are going to do is loop through this file and figure out where the start and finish location is. So let's do that. For index comma line in enumerate of f. So enumerate of f will loop through each line in this file and you will get the index and the line. Now, if the line's index is greater than or equal to start and less than finish, what we are going to do is we are going to yield that line. So what happens when it goes beyond 34? Else if the index goes beyond the finish line, at this point you don't have to process anything anymore, so we can return and that will be the end of the loop. Now, instead of loading the whole file into the memory, what we are doing is reading only the first 34 lines and then we are just returning the response. Now, what are you going to get as the response? Let's print G and C. Now, let's run the generators.py. Now, we can see this is a generator object. This is not a list. This is not a dictionary. This is not a complete data structure. This is just a generator function that you get out of this. Now, to get the data out of this generator function, what you have to do is the simplest way is you can loop through it. For I in G, print of I. Now that will give us the 17 through 34th line, as you can see here. But what is happening in the background? So every time that G is called in the for loop, there is this method called next.g that is being called. Now, to make the job easier for us, I'm going to just loop over 10 to 12, which means you're going to get 2 lines as output and the third line is going to error out. Read line number 10, it read line number 11, and when you try to extract one more line out of it, it's going to raise a stop iteration. And that's when the for loop exits. Just by replacing your return with yield and formulating your function in such a way that it does not read the whole data, Python gives you so much constructs that lets you do the whole looping and all that on that generator function. Generators are available all over Python. For example, let's do something. I have a list which is 1, 2. So this is my list and I want to convert this list into an integer. For that, what I have to do is I can loop over this list and convert that to int. An easier way to do that is using map operator. Map operator takes a function and then applies it on a sequence and it will return an object. And let's see what this object is. So let's stop printing all of this and print this. Now, if you see, map is also an object. This is actually a generator. For I in O, You can print I and that should give you. So only when we are consuming this generator, it gets actually resolved, it gets actually computed, not when we are doing this. We can also do something called as generator comprehension. You might have seen this symbol in Python, and this is in function calls, or you can call this tuples, right? So 1, 2, 3. But when you use it as a comprehension with a for loop for I in range of 10, and then you use I, this actually creates a generator expression. So let's print O again. You have generator functions, which you can return with yield keyword. And every time you're looping over your generator function, the next method on that function is being called. You have default generators spread across Python in different places. And you can also do generator expressions. That's all you have to know about generators. In the next video, we're going to look at iterators. Until then, see ya, goodbye.